thanks for watching. Today we're talking about the effects of a vegetarian or vegan diet on athletic performance. So strap yourselves in and let's get started. One of the first things that I want to talk about is that this is not a political attack on vegans or vegetarians. There's a ton of different reasons why people go vegetarian or vegan, for ethical, moral, political, environmental. Hell, there's a ton of different reasons why people go vegetarian or vegan. That's not for me to judge, that's not for me to do anything. I follow a flexitarian diet where I eat primarily vegetable proteins unless I'm out at a dinner party or at a restaurant. So that's what I do. There's a ton of different reasons. So again, this is not a political attack on anyone's dietary choices. But what we are going to do today is we're going to talk about how those dietary choices are going to affect your physical performance as an athlete, or when you're doing your exercise or your workouts. So let's get started. So before we get started, I think it's very, very important that we talk about what vegetarian or vegan means, because to be perfectly honest, vegetarian is a term that's very personally defined. I've met people that have considered themselves to be vegetarians, but they don't eat anything that flies. Literally nothing in our food flies, except for quail. That's about it. That's a very small thing to cut out to call yourself a vegetarian. Anyways, I digress. What we're going to talk about is the different levels of vegetarian diets. The ultimate one is fruitarian. Fruitarians eat raw fruits, nuts, seeds, honey, and vegetable oil only. So no animal products whatsoever. Vegan or macrobiotic is no animal foods, dairy, or eggs, and only uses unprocessed, unrefined, natural, and organic cereals and condiments. So we're not getting to get into that, but that's what raw vegan is. Vegan is no animal foods, dairy, eggs, or any foods that have had any involvement with animals. For example, they can't even have honey because bee labor, honey, yeah, that's a thing. Then we have lacto and lacto-ovo. Lacto-vegetarian means no animal products and eggs, but dairy products are allowed. Lacto-ovo means that there's no animal products, like no meat or anything like that, but allows eggs and dairy. Alright, so let's quickly talk about one thing. The effect of vegetarian diets on health outcomes. Vegetarian diet versus the general population, omnivore eaters, as we like to call it, I guess. I don't like the word normal, but omnivore seems to make much more sense. There is a decreased risk of morbidity and chronic disease, lower cardiovascular disease, lower cancer risk for specific cancers only, and lower risk of obesity and diabetes for the vegetarians compared to the way the omnivores tend to eat. I don't know if this is related to the diet itself or possible lifestyle differences. Maybe vegetarians are just healthier, more health conscious people in general. We don't know, but that's what we do know about vegetarian diets on normal health outcomes. Right now, with vegetarian athletes, yes, there are more and more and more of them. It's actually quite exciting to see how great vegetarian and vegan athletes are doing in the world right now, especially in the Olympics. Kind of cool stuff. I mean, Rio was kind of great for that. But really, there are very few studies looking at just a vegetarian athlete population, and very few athletes identify as vegetarian. Like I said, more coming. And the argument is always, is it genetic gift or is it related to plant-based diet? So that's another thing to keep in mind. So one of the first issues with the vegetarian diet when it comes to athletic performance is that it's hard to meet the caloric requirements through a vegetarian diet. The reason why this is because the vegetarian diets have more fiber associated with them. So that increases how full you feel, or your satiety levels. So imagine eating bowls and bowls and bowls of salad. You're going to feel full after a while, but only have consumed probably about 400 calories. Whereas through an animal-based diet, you can achieve calorie and nutrient-dense foods much, much easier. That being said, it all comes down to food choice. So what happens is ultimately with vegetarian diets, they may need to resort to an unhealthy, low nutrient but high calorie dense foods just to make up the calorie density. So what we get is a lot of reliance on processed foods, which may have a negative effect on the blood sugar levels. Second issue is protein. And yes, of course, when you're a vegetarian, you can definitely get all the proteins that you need from plants and plant-based foods. It's just got to be a very well-designed program. Athletes in general require more protein than the average population, but vegetarian athletes require, on general, more protein than the average athlete. How much more? About 1.2 to 3 times the amount of protein that an average athlete needs as a vegetarian. Now that's a lot depending on what kind of sport you're doing. So again, a lot of fruits and vegetables, a lot of fiber, making you full a lot faster. There's also a lot of planning that needs to be met in order to meet your amino acid requirements, because there are amino acids and then there are essential amino acids that can't be made. So you have to pair up the right combination of foods, rice and peas, to get all essential amino acids in your diet. There's also the issue of digestibility or bioavailability of the protein sources in vegetarians. So vegetarian protein sources are not as well absorbed as animal protein sources, but then there are some that are better absorbed. So looking at beef and soy proteins, soy actually gets absorbed a lot better than beef does. But in general, vegetarian protein sources are only about 60% absorbed. Animal protein sources are about 90+% absorbed. So that gives you the reason why vegetarian athletes need to eat more protein in general. Don't get me wrong, there are a lot more issues involved with vegetarian athletes or vegan athletes in general for their performance. We haven't even brought up the discussion of creatine or beta-alanine or I don't know, just there's a ton of vitamin B12 and iron. There's a lot more issues, but these can be addressed through a well-planned diet. One of the strategies looking at a well-planned diet is between food versus supplements. So food, obviously for vegetarian sources, we have beans, lentils, and seitan, and tofu, and tempeh, all these amazing vegan protein sources. Now, seitan versus food or vegetarian sources versus supplements. So what we're going to talk about is supplements. Yes, they're easy. They make sense and they can be added to the meal relatively easily because, let's be honest, if you're having 5 cups of salad, maybe sticking on 2 or 3 sticks of tofu, not really the easiest thing. So what's easier than that? Drinking down those protein supplements. So choose a protein supplement that's vegan sourced or meets your requirements or ethics or morals as a vegetarian or vegan, and have that and consider adding that to meals to increase your protein intake if you're an athlete. So that's what we're going to leave you with today, just the calories and the protein recommendations for vegetarian and vegan athletes. There are a lot more, don't get me wrong, we talked about this already. Vitamin B12, cholesterol, creatine, beta-alanine, the list goes on and on and on, and stay tuned because there will be more in the Vegetarian Athlete series that you will find out for. But right now, we're just going to list off the top things. So one of the top things that vegetarian and vegan athletes need to watch out for, are you eating enough calories? Pick nutrient-dense foods, add a little bit more fat, some nuts, seeds into it because they have a little bit more oils. That will help you increase the calories to meet your athletic demands from an energy standpoint. The second one is protein. Are you eating enough? Remember, an average vegetarian athlete needs 1.2 to 3 times more than the average athlete needs in terms of protein. So you really got to focus on protein, planning out your diet to make sure all the amino acids are there, all 20 are there, and what are the strategies behind getting some of those proteins in your diet? Are you going to use a diversity method, which beans, lentils, tofu, tempeh, and seitan? Or are you going to use supplements? Add a protein powder or a protein shake to some of your meals? Or are you going to try to blend up some stuff in a blender and add it as a smoothie? We don't know. There's a lot of different strategies around this. That's what we do want to cover today. So thank you for watching, and stay tuned because we are going to release very, very soon the creatine powder, the creatine needs, cholesterol needs, vitamin B12, iron, the micronutrients for the vegetarian and vegan athletes. Stay tuned. Thanks for watching. And always remember to subscribe below and check out the Instagram and Twitter pages. Thanks for watching. See you soon.